What is up, Honey Badger Nation? This is John Kitchens, and welcome to episode 188 of Expert Mentors Live. Got my man from the land, Nick DeVito. What's up, brother?
John, it's a pleasure to be here. You know that we talk a lot, and being on this program, it's just it means you've done something well in your life, good for others, and that's, you know me, that's what I'm all about. One
Yes,
plus
sir.
one equals
And having
three.
a good time. Having a good time.
Yes, sir. And it's 90 and sunny in Cleveland, so I don't know what that means, but it's hot.
It's 70 and rainy in Oklahoma, so there you go.
Perfect sense.
Perfect sense. Makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. Well, man, you know, I know there's a lot of these awesome honey badgers out there that haven't had the opportunity to connect with you, meet with you. I know, you know, you're definitely aligned, working hand in hand with Jay and Al. You know, an active contributor into the Honey Badger Leaders group, and just all around, you know, come from a place of abundance and contribution. But I would love for you to tell a little bit about your story. I mean, you've got an extensive career. There's just so much knowledge and expertise that you bring to this group. And I think, you know, want to kind of share and unpack that so people know what a hell of a resource you really are.
Sure. Well, you know, before real estate, which is almost now 20 years ago now, I was a consultant for a REIT, which is a real estate investment trust here located in Cleveland. We had properties in over 15 states. So I traveled a lot, which was great. I learned a lot about construction and all that great stuff, and no regrets, but traveling a lot, you know, got old after a while. And after doing that for about 10 or 15 years, I just was like, I want to stay home, and I got these kids I got to raise and do some other things. And so my girlfriend at the time said, you know, you'd be a great realtor. Why don't you do that? And I was like, man, I don't know. I was 30 years old. I didn't know what I didn't know. But I knew that they drove nice cars. They usually looked pretty good, dressed pretty good. And I'm like, hey, we could try that. So I took my classes, and I guess the rest is history. I spent 10 years with RE/MAX, great firm, good franchise. No bad things to say about RE/MAX, good firm, really liked it. And then 5 years with Berkshire Hathaway, running the #1 team in the state of Ohio. And I got them from #1 in the state of Ohio, but also #2 nationally for Berkshire Hathaway, which at the time had over 50,000 agents. And that was fun. So I did that for 5 years. And after my contract was up, I said, you know, I'm going to do something else, maybe off the board for 50. And I remember my friend Al Stasek calling me a few years back and said he was going to try this cloud-based business. And I said, well, man, that sounds weird. But he told me it had some good perks. And after he did it for 2 years, he showed me his results. And I said, Al, I'm ready. You know, I'm ready. So let's jump on board. And I've always been, as you know, I like helping people. I like mentoring. I like training. I like recruiting. I love it, actually. I still like selling properties. This weekend, as I told you, you know, about $1 million under contract with 2 houses in Cleveland. That's a good weekend. And especially when you're on the listing side. So
city block in Lawton, Oklahoma. What are you talking about?
So yeah, you know, nothing but positive in this industry. I mean, almost, you know, 17 years now, and just everything that I've learned and really trying to give it back to the community and fundraising efforts and RPAC and all those good things that the realtors, you know, we do as an industry. Just no negatives about this industry. I mean, there's way more good people in this industry and people trying to help people, and especially obviously in our brokerage is very, very unique.
Yeah, it is. And you know, I mean, it comes back down to understanding kind of the business model, and, you know, compensation drives behavior. And so if you're not getting to the root of the behavior you're wanting in your organization, the first thing you have to look at is what is the incentive in comp structure. And, you know, that's, you know, Warren Buffett 101, you know, lesson when he evaluates, you know, troubles with any of his organizations. It's always help me understand the incentive and comp structure, and I'll, you know, be able to give you some feedback on why things went the way they went. And so it really is just understanding that simple concept, simple, maybe not easy, but just understanding that and how to really get that right. I'm curious, within the Remax world, and then jumping in and really helping an organization drive to number one at anything. I don't care if you're the number one, shaved ice company in Cleveland, Ohio, you still have to be doing something right for that to be true. So what were some of the ahas, gets, principles, foundation that you guys built on at Berkshire to be that successful?
Well, it started with the guy at the top, my business partner, Michael, and I, when he came to me and approached me and said, I have a 5-year goal to be number one nationally for BHHS. And I said, well, that's a lofty goal since how you're starting at number 9. 9 to 1 sounds like there's only 7, 8 numbers between you. But we're talking about selling 300 houses a year to selling 600 houses a year. And that for anybody is a huge stretch. And so he had a lot of systems in place. And what I noticed that he was lacking is like the organization, the structure. There was no, not only was there a lack of mentorship, more importantly, agents didn't know what they didn't know. You can give an agent a lead and it's like giving them a fish. But if you teach someone, my principle is you teach someone how to fish, they'll eat for a lifetime. And that's what they were missing. And so we had the best coaches in the world, Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, all the Ferries coached us, and some other people. But what I said is, Michael, we got to teach these agents how to be self-productive, because if we're spending $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 a month on leads, that's not duplicatable. And every month, and when there was a recession, and we did have one, that shuts off. So what are they going to do in the bad times, or in the industry right now when we have way more buyers than sellers, and we're all looking for listings? So we needed to teach them a culture, and the culture is you're part of a team, you're part of a bigger organization, but you need to depend on yourself and help others. And that was the biggest thing, is agents helping agents. And that's what I really was. You could put the best software programs, you can put the best training systems, the best lead generation, all that stuff is great. But when you get like-minded agents together, helping each other, then you're focusing on something, and the general good of the whole organization is better than the sum parts of the one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's such just a core foundational principle for everybody, tuning in is that don't make them dependent upon you. And the kind of how that understanding goes is that if they are dependent upon you, they'll never be the who that you need them to be. And that's really what we're trying to surround ourselves with, people that can, fill the voids against what we're not the best in the world at, and really try to truly create that leverage. But if everybody's just kind of there dependent upon you, and that's an ego thing. And being able to step back and realize that, yeah, I may be head of this company, but you damn sure better not be the smartest one in that company.
Right. Absolutely.
It's just one of those ego trips to where you've got to surrender. And that's just where we see leaps and bounds. I mean, look at when Kinder and I came together back in 2004, he had his superpowers and I had mine, and we acknowledged that we complemented each other. And that's why we were able to, accelerate and do the things that we were able to do and build the foundation for where we're at here today. And, if it was ego, either one of the ways, and it's like, no, we just trusted each other. Like, I trusted his marketing and sales ability. He trusted my operation and financial abilities. And that's when you do that and you can get your ego out of the way, is where you can accelerate and make the jumps, like what you were just talking about. So important.
Absolutely. And that's what I saw. I mean, the reason why I left, and again, no hard feelings, but the guy running the show, or my business partner at the time, I think his ego was writing checks. His bank account couldn't cash. And if you don't know what that means, it basically means that if your ego is so big, you can't let other people do enough stuff. And he was trying to micromanage and the more successful we got, the more he wanted to be hands-on. And I'm like, do you understand that we're getting more successful because you're not hands-on? And it's hard. It's hard to give up your baby. And this was his 20-year baby, building this team. And he's done a great job, and he continues to do so. But, I will tell you, after I left, the numbers went from 600 units a year to 500 units a year. That's not by chance. That's because obviously I was a big part of his production as well. But some of the synergy, some things left with it when I left, and it's hard to duplicate that. So, again, no hard feelings, that they're going to do fine in their world, but they don't have what we have. And I think our financial alignment, I mean, that's what I've been looking for in the industry, in a brokerage for literally 17 years. And I didn't understand what I didn't understand. And Al tried to explain it to me over Top Golf, and that went over like a lead of bricks because I still didn't get it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I was going to say, do you have sound effects?
That's how that went, right?
Maybe God's trying to tell us something. I don't know.
He's listening in for sure.
Jeez. But
wow.
It was, that's loud. But so, I will tell you that, but I listened and I humbled myself and I said, I don't know what this guy knows on the west side of Cleveland, and I'm on the east side. We don't talk to those west siders much. But I said, whatever they're doing is succeeding. And I didn't understand the financial alignment. It's interesting because when I came to real estate, I always said, it's great that we make $8,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 per check when we sell something, but wouldn't it be interesting if we got paid more like insurance agents? What if we got paid for the next 30 years on how long someone paid off their mortgage? Maybe we take less in the beginning, but accumulate that over a 10, 15, 20-year career. Now you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, and that's real money. And financial alignment means a lot to us, as you well know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it comes back even into kind of the theme and the topic for today of really, how do you, build a foundation to attract, but not only attract, but retain. And that's where a lot of people don't understand about marketing. Marketing's two things: get and keep. And a lot of people are really good at getting, and there's a lot of people that are really good at keeping. But to be world class, you got to excel in both. So with your, experience in Remax and then with Berkshire and then the work that you've been able to do over here at EXP, what are some of the key foundational points and principles that allow agents, team leaders, just us humans in general, to excel at attracting and keeping people in our circle, in our environment?
Well, again, the key is, attracting them is one thing, but I think, which is way more important, as is the retention and keeping them happy. And obviously EXP as a brokerage does a great job. As many people know, inside our Honey Badger Nation and inside of EXP, we have a personal concierge. So when something is going not sideways, but if you forget a signature or something, I get an email from a guy who says, hey, Nick, on this page, you forgot this signature or this. I mean, we have a personal concierge on every deal. So that helps. I mean, being accountable and stuff like that. I mean, I was with two other huge major franchise brokerage. I never had a concierge on every deal. I had a manager and then but I mean, they never looked at things like we do. And having a cloud-based brokerage makes sure we have everything where we need it to be. And you can look online at any time and see where your deals are. And that's huge, in my opinion. But keeping people on the retention side, keeping them happy. And that means, paying them well. Our compensation plan is unbelievable. And if you don't, recruiting is a huge part of what I do. But if you never recruited anyone and you just came here and you sold a lot of houses, between what you would get with the stock and your 80-20 split and then on to 100%, I mean, it's just, we've never seen anything like this. And it's no wonder, when I joined our organization, we had 2 years ago, we had 24,000 agents. And as you well know, John, now we're sitting on top of 81,000, 82,000 agents. And ironically, my broker from Berkshire called me today because we were going through some numbers. And I asked him, I said, what's your agent count at? Because when I left, it was 50,000 and his agent's still 50,000. And ours has gone in 2 years from 20,000 to 80,000. And that tells me that we're not only getting good people to come over here, but we're keeping them. And a lot of that has to do with not only, what we offer as a brokerage, but more importantly, because mine and your financial interests for the first time are aligning together. So if I succeed and you're my sponsor, John, then you and I have a reason to talk every day and communicate about things, or I'll ask you a question, and it doesn't matter who sponsors who. I could have sponsored you and you can ask me a question. So it's one of those things where keeping our agents happy in the forefront, and our NPS score, which a lot of people don't know about, keeping our NPS score, which is our agents and our employees at EXP, are they happy? And having an NPS score of above 70 is almost unheard of in the industry. And it's just something that we strive ourselves on. And when you build a cloud-based business like we have in the last 11 years, keeping those people happy is the most important thing. Because if you don't have happy employees, you don't have happy agents, they will leave. They will find something else.
100%. So, that word has been kind of bouncing around just in some conversations that I've had over the last couple of weeks, and just things kind of paying attention to, but you've said it several times, happiness. So for you, how do you kind of unpack and define and really help agents find their true happiness?
Well, I thought, when I was a younger man with more hair, I would have thought, happiness was making $1 million or making money, or what can I get? What can I do for me and my family? And there's nothing wrong with that. Making money is a great thing. What I've learned is I get more happiness out of seeing an agent that I helped, whether they're in my organization or not, or just in EXP or not. I mean, I just did a broker, someone from KW. It was a young agent. He didn't know what he was doing. And I said, oh, you need to do this with Dot Loop, or you need to do that. And he's like, I've been an agent for 3 years and no one ever showed me this. And I'm like, listen, his name's Ryan. I said, listen, Ryan, that's what, good agents do, is they help people, whether I had a financial interest in him or not. And I wasn't even trying to recruit him. He was just an agent on another side of a deal. But having that mentality that, hey, if I help teach something, they're not going to take from me. They're not going to steal from me. I think a lot of people think of the world as there's one big pie, and we're all trying to get a piece of that pie. And the bigger piece I have, the smaller piece John has. Well, I don't believe that. I think there's an unlimited pies. There's an infinity number of pies, and my pie might be here and your pie might be here, and that's fine. So I just think that that's a huge, when you think of the world, as of abundance and not of bringing things down, when you think of abundant life, I mean, I now give more than I receive, and it makes me happier. I would have thought, 30 years old when I started in this industry, I would have thought making money was going to make me happy. And again, at the time I was divorced, I had little kids and needed to make money to survive, which we all do. But now it's, if I can give back, whether it's inside our organization, our brokerage or not, it just makes me feel better as a person. I sleep better at night, and maybe I don't sell 100 transactions a year like I used to for some other franchises, but that's okay. That's not the end goal.
Yeah. And I think, Nick, the one thing that, kind of talking through there, and you look at the scarcity mentality, right? The scarcity mindset. And I think a lot of these brokerages and other organizations and other companies, I just have a belief that where you stay in scarcity is because you're always in survival. Right. And when you're able to move beyond the means of survival is which opens up to abundance. And you look at the top performers, the top earners at EXP, I promise you, if you go in and you evaluate, do they come from an abundance mindset or do they come from a scarcity mindset? And the reason that they are the top earners, top performers, is because they come from a place of contribution, a place of abundance. And they don't live in a place of scarcity. And I get that, new agent, it's just like you even sharing your story. Hey, single dad raising kids, man, I'm just trying to fight. How am I going to get this next commission check just to make sure I got food on the table? Lights are paid, hey, maybe we're 30 days behind. How do I get caught up? Man, I get that. I get all of that. Been there. And so where you have to get yourself into an environment that allows you to flourish in that mindset, because you look at, we were a part of Caldwell Banker. We've been, the Realogy events, and you go there, man, and it's just, everything's guarded. We had one of the top performing masterminds at NAEA, and the only way to get people to come in the room and play all out was that if they had territory, like nobody in their market could come into the room, then they would just freely play all out. Until you have a few examples in the room that didn't care, like Jeff Cook, for example. So if you guys don't know, Jeff Cook's in Charleston. He's in multiple markets out on the East, and they're doing a couple thousand transactions. When he came to us, he did 78 transactions when he came to us. They'll probably do 2,000 transactions this year. And I remember Jeff being in the room, and you had to get permission to the first person in the room. Hey, can this other person in your market come into the room? And he said, hell yeah, why not? Like, I ain't got nothing to hide. But that changed a lot of perspectives of people in the room because of one example. And I think that's the thing, is that you've got to be around people that can just open your eyes to, hey, there's a better way. And I think that's kind of what you've experienced, what you've seen going from Remax to Berkshire to now EXP. You've witnessed the example. And I don't know your thoughts on this. I always kind of laugh. It's hard to tell people. I'm like, what you value to be important aligned at this organization today will not be the same thing you value 9 months from now. And they go, what do you mean? I'm like, let's just talk in 6 months. And I want to ask you the same question. What do you see the most important value? And they all have their piece in the beginning. 6 to 9 months later, it's always the alignment of the people in this organization is always the number one thing. That's why it comes down to environment is greater than anything.
Absolutely. And, having been not on stage, but having listened to on stage people like Gene Frederick, who I know you call the GOAT, who is, and, our friend from, who does our build events. I can't think of his name.
Mr. Brent Gove.
Oh, Mr. Brent Gove. Yes. Small Brent. I can say small because I'm a big guy myself. The fact that when you see these guys, and there's plenty of ladies too, that are killing it, Honey Badger Nation and outside. But, just you see these people and they walk on stage and talk, and then you go up to them afterwards. I remember being conventions at Remax, and there was guys or girls that would be number one in this or number one in that for the state of California. And you try to get up to them and they'd be like, talk to my so-and-so or make an appointment. And I'd be like, well, we're at a Remax convention or, Berkshire Hathaway convention. Why do I need to make an appointment? And these people, our leaders, they couldn't be more welcoming. Matter of fact, at the last event, we were in Vegas for our EXP Con, my first one because of COVID. And I remember walking up to Brent Gove, and he didn't know me from Adam. And he's like, hey, Nick, how you doing? And I'm like, hey, Brent, I'm Nick, and I'm with Honey Badger. He's like, what can I help you with? I mean, at first, what can I help you? What can I do? And that's how, Gene and Brent and Al and Jay and Michael and yourself. And, we're so fortunate to have that. It's not just, it's just one person. It's a group of people. I mean, there's probably 81,000 people that will help you here. And that's never been done before. It's never been done in a brokerage. And that's why we're attracting, world-class talent. I mean, yeah, a lot of them sell a lot of houses, and then they realize, hey, if I sell a house, I help one family or help this family, or maybe I double on the deal. Maybe I help two families, and that's great. But if I help bring agents to see that maybe there's something more for them, and that the agent's the most important thing and not the brokerage. I mean, we've had 75, 100 years of this industry where the broker's here and the agents and everyone else is here. And EXP, I mean, they really, as you know, flipped the switch. And now the agents are the most important thing in these brokerages. And we're the ones with the contacts, and we're the ones with, with the sales, and we're the ones recruiting other agents to our company. And it's really nice. And to have the management and ownership know that we are the most important factor. I mean, that was not at Remax, and that was not at Berkshire. And again, that's no knock on them. That's the way those things are structured. And ours is structured the exact opposite. And that's a very unique principle. And I think all brokerages eventually, either they're going to be more like us or they're going to go away. And that's okay too. A lot of people thought Amazon, some guy selling books online, was a dumb idea, and Jeff Bezos lost money for a long time. Well, no one's laughing at Jeff Bezos today, are they?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because and I'd be curious to kind of get your take on this. Amazon's built on just core principles, and that's just kind of what we're really talking about right here, right? What are the principles to build upon? And that's how Amazon was able to do the things that they've done, because they have those core principles. There's a great book. I've only got into the beginning of it, but it's called Working Backwards by Colin Breyer and Bill Carr. And they're former executives at Amazon, and they really break down all of the insights, the foundation, the principles, everything that built Amazon to be Amazon. And, you know, if you guys aren't paying attention to those things and you're only fixated on what's going on within the things around you, you're going to get left behind. You know, one of Jay Abraham's fundamental lessons that he teaches and taught us for years and years and years was, you know, if you want to just grow like incrementally, and you do that by just paying attention to what's working within your industry. Where you want to grow exponentially is you pay attention to what's working outside of your industry. And then you borrow that and you apply it to your business. That's where the exponential gains happen. And so, yes, do you want to pay attention to what's going on? Who's doing great things? Sure. But where you really want to change things, that's where you look at greatness. You study the Amazons, the Apples, you study, you know, these companies that are doing incredible things, and what's at their core is making them excel the way they're excelling. And it comes down to, for Amazon, it comes down to their foundation, their principles, what
Sure.
they stand for, how they make decisions.
Absolutely. And I know, you know, our principles, and we have a lot of them at EXP, but, you know, agent happiness, or agent, you know, being obsessed with agent success. It's easy for me to say, obsessed with agent success. And that's whether it's success being you want to sell 500 houses a year, or you want to, you know, attract 100 agents in your organization, whatever that is, you know, we're going to be fanatical about that. And in EXP is going to help you do it in any way they can. And that to me just means that, you know, you're aligned with people that think exponentially, and very few people think like that. And why I know so is when I look at, you know, Glenn Sanford, who we all know is a visionary, when he started this and things, and I'm sure he was laughed out of more boardrooms than you and I could ever imagine. And many very successful people were, but he tied his financial success to the stock price and other things. And if you look at the billionaires, people become billionaires, and whether you like that term or not, it's important to know that they've been successful at what. And Glenn, you know, said, I'm not going to get paid a lot in the beginning, but if things go well, if the stock does well, then I'll do well. Well, there's people like Elon Musk. There's people like, you know, our friend from Jeff Bezos. There's a lot of the billionaires in the world, you know, Warren Buffett. It was tied to the company, their success, their personal wealth was tied to the company's success. And that tells me something about people, tells me something about how structured they were to say, no matter what happens, I'm going to make this work. And watching people like Glenn and the other leaderships that we have in this organization is really, it's just really powerful. And just to be in you know, you probably heard this story probably 5 times now, but when we were in the build in Dallas, I got on the wrong elevator. And you know you're in the wrong elevator because I went up to a floor, and it was after a thing, and I looked up, and every single room with these huge suites, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm like, that's clearly not the room. I'm like, unless I was looking for Jay's room or Al's room or Mike Reese's room. But anyway, but guess who comes on the elevator? And I'm just standing there and he's thinking I'm getting off because I'm clearly going up and he's going down. And I'm like, hey, Glenn, how you doing? And, you know, and he's like, hey, how are you? And long story short, we go down together. We have a nice ride from floor 18 to floor 1. And we open the doors, and I think there was 500 people waiting for this elevator to go up. Apparently a lot of people are in these suites. And, you know, people are like, who's this guy with Glenn? You know, why is this just the 2 of them on the elevator? Why aren't there more people? And people were asking me, like, are you the head of Glenn Security? I'm like, no, I don't even know the guy. I just met him on an elevator. He just happens to be the CEO and founder of our company. But it was just kind of funny and ironic. And people always assimilate me with Glenn, but I promise you, I'm just an agent. You know, I was fortunate enough that Al and Michael and Jay said, you know, would you like to try this to be our chief recruiting officer? Or I call it, you know, Honey Badger Nation. And it's been such a privilege just to help people, you know, all over the country and now the world. I mean, a lot of times I'm talking to people through LinkedIn or whatever, and they're in other countries. And that's just, you know, before I was able to do it in the state of Ohio, and now I can do it on a global basis. And that to me, it just tells you what EXP means and how important it is to think exponentially. And I've used that word probably a couple of times. You'll probably get mad at me saying it, but it means a lot. And to think outside of the box, like you said, think about our industry, but think of other industries and how many things affect real estate. You know, the price of wood and nails and screws and wire and everything, a lot of things get affected by the real estate industry. So the fact that the real estate industry is doing well means a lot of other people are also doing well. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing for our country. It's a good thing for a lot of people, a lot of hardworking people as well.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I was looking at a quote, going through Cameron Haynes' new book, Endure. And just you had said something about sacrifice, and it's just kind of early on. And that's what Cam, I just had typed a note on it, and he's like, the only way to make dreams possible is sacrifice. Yeah. And you think about that, you know, there's just a lot of agents aren't willing to, they feel they're at a point in their career, they've already sacrificed enough. But that's where I believe complacency comes in.
Absolutely. And I go one step further. I can't take credit for this quote, but I've heard it from a friend of mine in another industry, in the insurance industry, and sacrifice creates opportunity. And I love this. Sacrifice creates opportunity. And, you know, I tell people when people are struggling or people call me and say, well, you know, I'm not selling as many houses or I'm comparing myself. And I said, well, don't compare yourself. I've had 20 years. You've had 2. That's a bad comparison. But then I asked them, I said, well, what's the goal? And they said, well, I want to sell 20 houses a year. And so I reverse engineer it. And I said, okay, great. Well, to sell 20 houses a year, you need to talk to 20 new contacts every day. Every day. I said, are you prospecting 4 hours a day? They're like, Nick, no one does that. I go, well, let me tell you, the guys and girls at the top of our industry are prospecting 3 or 4 or 5 hours from 8 in the morning till noon. That's all people do. Matter of fact, I know people that if you interrupt them when they're prospecting the room, they take a $20 bill and rip it up right in front of you and go, you owe me that $20 for opening this door. I mean, unless the building's on fire, they don't want to be stopped in what they're doing. And as we know, prospecting, whether you're prospecting for business or recruiting agents, whatever it is, it's the most valuable thing we can do with our time. And that creates leverage. And leverage, as you know, one of my favorite books, Untrapped. And God, that's such a great book. And it talks about linear, leverage, and passive incomes. And really, for my first 2 brokerages, I was getting paid linearly. I was not getting paid leverage or passively. And I didn't understand. And, you know, now when I look at it, all I want to have is passive incomes, whether that's in rental property or helping agents achieve whatever it is. I mean, passive income, as we know, we've seen firsthand with our mentors. I mean, that's the name of the game. And when your passive income takes over for all of your bills, now you have a life and you can actually give more back. You know, I can't wait till the time when my, you know, rev share checks are bigger than the 20 or 30 or 40,000 a month that comes in from selling real estate. I mean, those are going to be fun times to be had. I assure you, as you know.
It is. It's the, you know, the dancing bear, right? If we don't dance, we don't get paid. And so it's being able to really trade that. And that's probably one of the most eye-opening reads. Brian Carruthers' book, just everybody that listening in, what Nick was talking about was Brian Carruthers' book, Untrapped Freedom Manifesto. It's a short read. It's super, super powerful. If you're trying to create awareness to another human being and you want them to be open to possibilities, that's probably the best book that you can give them. I don't know. I don't know of one that if you had to pin me down, Nick, and say, hey, one book to open up somebody's mind about their financial opportunities, that might be it.
I agree 100%. And I'd never heard of the book and we never talked about it, but I was in EXPCon and I met a guy in the hallway in Las Vegas and he said, hey, are you at EXP? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, let me give you this book. Now, he wasn't trying to recruit me. We were already in the same broker, you know, and he said, someone gave this to me and I'm just paying it forward. And I'm like, well, that was nice. Someone just gave me a book that night. I'm in Vegas. There's a lot to do in Vegas, as we all know. I didn't even make it it was the last night we were there, and I never made it to the last party at Dre's, which I heard was phenomenal. Especially in my 20-year-old nephew and niece is like, Uncle Nick, how did you not go to Dre's? It's the hottest nightclub in the Vegas. I'm like, what? I said, I was reading a book. They're like, well, you must be getting old then. And that's okay. But I read this book cover to cover, and I've read it a couple times now, and it just goes back to those principles and building wealth and doing it correctly and helping other people and how you're doing it. I always lived by, John, when I was selling a lot of real estate, kind of a funny thing is a third, a third, a third. A lot of realtors don't know this. And you say, what's a third, a third, a third? When you get a commission check, you get a third goes to retirement, and a third goes to Uncle Sam. Yeah. So when you get your $20,000 or $10,000 or $50,000 checks, you get to spend a third. The other 2/3 are already spoken for. But a lot of agents, especially early in my career, I remember my first year, I did great. I had $100,000 year and made all this money. And then my accountant goes, "Oh, you owe the government $15,000. And I said, "Excuse me?" I said, I felt like that was my money. He said, "I'm sure you did, but you owe the government a lot of money." So I learned very quickly at the age of 30 how that works. And he had that principle, a third, a third, a third. So I live by that now. And that's what I teach agents about building money and building wealth and long-term, principles of that.
Yeah. And let's kind of shift over, kind of your role on the attraction recruiting side. I would love for you to give just some key fundamentals, some daily habits, some activities that we know the one thing that we do know is that agents don't stay disciplined and they don't stay consistent. And I like to group those two words together, consistently disciplined. And that's, you're like, well, what is that? Well, discipline's doing the things that you need to do that's going to produce the outcome, the result you're after, even if you don't want to do it, but you have to do it on a consistent basis, means daily. So what are those key activities that hey, this is what will set you apart from anybody else if you're not getting the results you want because you're not focused on this?
Well, I would tell you, as I'm a big believer of affirmations, and that's huge. And you got to believe in yourself. And whenever I walked into a listing or something, I'm a great agent. I'm a great listing agent. I'm going to get this listing. Actually, 2 minutes before we went live here, I got a call from a client who I'm going to list her house. And I said, "Katie, I'm going to go live right now with Coach Kitchens." And she's like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "It's not important right now." But anyway, and she lives 2 blocks away. And I'm like, "I'm going to come and list your house." I said, "When's it going to be ready?" She said, "A month." I said, "Great. I'll see you on June 15th. Because I believe that I could sell it when whatever state it is. And that comes from affirmations and starting in the morning. I wake up every morning, start off with, well, first of all, I pray. That's important to me. I thank God and for what I've had in this last 48 years of being on this planet. And then I go into my affirmations of abundance and helping people and what it means to be a great realtor today in 2022. And that's not what it was when I started back in 2005, maybe, but just knowing those things and starting off and saying, okay, now I'm going to spend the next 3 or 4 hours, this is about agent retention. And I help, as Al, Jay, and Mike, make sure that they're building people from all over the country. And these are serious agents. When I call an agent, whether it's through LinkedIn or Facebook or any social media, whatever platform you're using to attract agents, when I get them on the phone and talk to them, they, believe it or not, they might have heard of Jay, they might have heard of Al, they might have heard of Michael, but 9 out of 10 really have not. They're so focused. These agents are focused on selling houses. They're not worried about other things or other things going on with EXP because they're working for ABC brokerage and they're doing fine. They're selling 5, 10, some of them hundreds of houses a year and doing great. So when I get them on the phone and I talk to them, I just ask them some principles. What do you know about this, or what do you know about this, or how many houses did you sell last year? How many were given to you by your broker, or how many did your broker help you sell or close? And a lot of those people like, I've worked for the same broker for 10 years and they didn't do that, or they don't, that's not something they offer. And to me, that's important. Asking questions, knowledge, as we know, knowledge is power. So for me, it all starts in the beginning of the morning, getting up with the affirmations and then going into my routine. And my routine is for the first 3 hours of my morning. It's going on LinkedIn. It's going on Facebook. It's looking for those, anomalies and making sure that I'm talking to the agents of the agents and the agents out there beating the bushes. And maybe there's a mega team leader, or maybe it's a broker owner. And that's important because brokers have a different mentality than team leaders, have a different mentality than just a single agent. And those are 3 different conversations you're going to have, and they're all going to have we always call it like a point where, well, what's their sticking point, or what can't they get past, or what do they need help with? And it's always going to be, every single person is going to be different, whether it's, help with the system or a software.
I want everybody to get that, Nick. Say, just kind of unpack that a little bit more, because I think a lot of people, where they mess up, they come in, one for all type of conversation, and that doesn't work. So kind of slow down, unpack that a little bit, because I think if more people would get that, I think it would help them in their conversations.
And I don't want to say I'm bad at it, but I love to talk, as most salespeople do, as you know. But what you really got to do is ask the questions. And then when you have to ask the questions, you got to listen for the answers and not think about what you're going to say. You need to listen and digest. And I will tell you that, believe it or not, I took some entrepreneurial classes in college, and I learned to write people's names or numbers down, or information, or, hey, John's got 3 kids, or John's married to so-and-so, something like that. So you have something to talk about. And I think that's important, because you got to ask them the questions, and then you got to understand what their answers are. And I will tell you that all their answers are going to be different, because we're all individuals. There's 7 billion people on this planet, and everyone's going to be a little bit different. We're not all the same. So when I ask them a question, I say, now what's the most important thing to you? I mean, would you like to retire at a certain age? What do you want to sell more houses? Are you trying to grow a big team? Are you trying to make your broker, your independent brokerage, the largest in the world? Like what are you trying to get to? And then write down those answers. And a lot of times it's funny, I'll ask a question and I'll be like, I said, hold on, I'm just writing down your answer. And they're like, really? I go, yeah. I'm writing it down because it's important, and I'm going to use that, and I'm going to remind them, okay, this was important then. And sometimes those things change. Being the number one agent or whatever it is, that was important in 2022, but in 2025, that answer might have changed. So I just think it's a huge, huge thing to ask the right questions, and then listen for the answers, and get the information, and just know that a lot of people aren't like, I don't need to sell any more houses. I need financial freedom, or I need passive income. It's not about selling houses. A lot of them sell a ton more houses, but that's not what's important to them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, really uncovering to what it is. And that point you said right there, we used to teach that in our, with our listing process. And we still teach it with CHSA, CHBA to this day, Nick, is that you've got to find out what their true motivation is at this point, because agents, but even like sellers, they have selective amnesia. Once an offer comes in, they forget what their true motivation was. And your job as the expert is to anchor them back in. And this is also important with buyers, is that, hey, you remember our initial goal was X. You wanted to be in this school district, but we're looking at properties over here. Has the goal changed?
Right.
See, I can't help you if I don't know really what your desired outcome is. And so I think that's a lesson that you apply with buyers and sellers, but it's the same thing with humans in general, and agents and team leaders and owners. And it's like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Right.
Like, what is the real goal? What is the end in mind? What are you trying to do? Once I know that, Nick, then I can do a better job at asking better questions to help us get down to the root of the issue and how we have a solution to help you overcome that.
Absolutely. And what I tell people, my other thing is, the last thing I say is, what makes you happy? If selling 50 houses a year makes you happy, then let's sell 50 houses a year. If agent attraction makes you happy, then let's work on that. What makes you, and think about that question. A lot of people don't get asked that. What makes you happy? And they're like, they ask me like, I don't know. I was like, well, okay, if paper, like, I know for me, paperwork doesn't make me happy. I'm not a good, paper person.
Can I make a point on that too?
Sure.
Nick? So I had my coach on the podcast on Thursday, and we dropped it. So if you guys catch out, if you're subscribed to the Coach Code podcast, it came out on Tuesday. It's with Dr. Matt Townsend. And I've been working with Matt for about 6 months now. And we talked about happiness. That's why that word's ringing in. And I'm like every time, I'm leaning in every time you're saying the word happy, and you just nailed it right there. You have to do what your character traits that you're wired to do. That's what you have to do to stay happy. And I subscribe to Gary V, what you're the best in the world at, triple down. I love David Goggins. And David's like, you got to turn them weaknesses into strengths. Not in your business. Yes, in your health and your relationships, those weaknesses that you have there, the weakness in your mind, the weakness you have in your heart, the weakness you have with your body. Yes, those you have to turn into strengths. So 100% agree with Goggins on that. But what Matt was talking about, we talked about this, and him and I are actually working through this, is that if something is not like your top 4 or 5 core strengths, if you try to turn it into a strength, it will not make you more happy. In fact, it'll make you less happy. So just like you acknowledging, like, man, paperwork does not make me happy. And if somebody come along and said, Nick, you got to turn that into a strength, that's not going to make you more happy. And where I really believe that we go down a path that we don't want to go down is when we're doing things that don't make us happy.
Absolutely. And do things that make you happy. And then the last point there is, what's your superpower? I found out, like, I enjoy people. I like learning about people. I like listening to people. I like helping people as much as I can. And my superpower is bringing people together. People where I live, they call me the connector or the mayor or something like that, or kind of a funny joke. But it's like, to me, I love being in the middle. I love being the center of attention, and not always the center of attention, but helping people and bringing them together, as you know. And it doesn't have to be so social. It could be, about real estate. I was at church the other day, and guy said, I want to live here. Well, in the same city, but not here. And I said, great. So I talked to an agent, and they have a house. And so we're going to do a couple of deals, and they're going to be all done, and that's a superpower, connecting people and listening to people and understanding that if this is what's important to you, if this is what you're good at, like, triple down, do as much as you can. Doing paperwork, I could ask my kids, not make me happy. It's just not. I'm not great at it. Thank God we work for a cloud-based brokerage, because there's no more paper. Everything's done online. But I will tell you, in the last 20 years of doing this, paperwork was just it always.
Some people that makes them happy, right, Nick? So
absolutely.
I think you're pushing people to really think about what they love and enjoy the most.
Yes.
And it's just a constant pursuit and constant push. I mean, I know I do that with my team on a constant basis. I mean, do you love this? I mean, I know that you're proficient. You're really good at this. You might be the best in the world at it, but do you love it? If you don't love it, then why are we doing it? Because it goes back to what's one of the core values that stands out at EXP that they make so many decisions on? Sustainability. If you're not happy, it's not sustainable.
Right. And that's important. And it reminds me of another good book that Al Stasek made me read, called Green Light by Matthew McConaughey. I mean, Matthew McConaughey. One of the
best audio experiences that you could ever have in your life.
Absolutely. Matthew McConaughey was doing so many rom-coms. And people that don't know, that's romantic comedy, short for rom-com. He was doing so many of these and getting paid 20 million, 30 million. I mean, some outrageous numbers, right? And he said, I'm done. That's not what I want. That's not helping me as an actor or as a person. I want to do something else. And they're like, yeah, you're good looking, you're young, you're going to do rom-coms. And he literally didn't do a movie, as you know, from reading the book, for a couple of years, which certainly affected his income as an actor. And then I don't know what the first movie was, whether it was Dallas Buyers Club or something else, or Wolf of Wall Street, but he got in these real roles, these much better roles for him that he wanted to do. And now
it was Lincoln Lawyer. I think
Lincoln Lawyer. Yeah. Okay. And then
Kill a Mockingbird or something. It was that one I think he did with Samuel L. Jackson where he was the attorney.
I think that's Lincoln Lawyer. I think that's right.
One of those. Yeah, anyway. Whatever.
but this guy changed his whole trajectory, in Hollywood, and that's not easily done. And it's not easily done in any profession. And, I know a lot of people struggle and said, well, I'm working with so many buyers. How do I work with sellers? I have an idea. Go out and door knock on people's doors and say, I'm looking to sell houses. My name's Nick. I'm a realtor. Here's my card. If you're ever looking to sell a house, please use me. I'm your neighbor. People are like, I would never door knock. Well, then maybe you won't sell as many houses. But thinking like that, you got to think outside the box and go back to the fundamentals. I think you want to be successful at something, you got to outwork your competition. There's nothing else in the world. I don't care what your looks are, what your bank account says. Nothing beats hard work. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely putting in the work over time. And that's what, if you haven't read Cameron Haynes' book, Endure, he's the world's best bow hunter. And, he talks a lot about bow hunting and, and stuff in the book. Well, he relates it to it, right? It's his life, but he talks about, let me read this, Nick, because this will resonate. I wrote this down this morning, and I am not blessed with insane talent. My secret is time. I've been grinding for years to be where I'm at. Never satisfied, always trying to be better.
It's perfect.
Right. That's it, man. That is
It's
it. That's how I feel every damn day.
And I'll take one out of, our Coach Burt is, I remember him saying things. I've heard him speak live now a couple times, and I love every minute of it. I'll hear him again in June at our shareholders meeting in Orlando. But what I love about Coach Burt is when he was coaching years ago, 30 years ago, those high school girls or whatever he coached, middle school girls, and the parents would come up and say, my child has so much, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm going to say. And he looks at it and he goes, well, how are you doing? Like, how is your child seeing you? And that's how I think of it. I'm a father of three and I married. And I think, geez, my kids seeing me at my best potential. Are they, they look at me. Are they going to compare me to John Kitchens or Al Stasic or Jake? Are they going to say, well, Dad, you're in the same brokerage. Why aren't you as successful as these guys? I don't want them to say that. Not that I compare myself to you guys, that. But at the same time, it's like, hey, you've been able to achieve something over time. And if I work hard at something, I'll be that successful or maybe more so. And that's important.
It really is. Just modeling that behavior, doing the right things always, right? I know that's kind of one of your mantras, and really trying to always live with. Hey, Nick, as we're coming up here on the hour, I want to, maybe just a kind of a couple key takeaways people listening to could be like, hey, dial in this and it'll excel your efforts to attract and grow either your team, your organization, whatever it is you're trying to do. Pay attention to a couple of these things.
Sure. I call, these are my important things. And, I think, we can all be $1 billion agents. And I call these my $1 billion agent principles, if you will. And the bullet points are, we start with attracting people. And that starts with affirmations. You got to love yourself. You got to be, people look at me and, I'm 48 years old and I probably don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Lou Ferrigno anymore, but that's how I feel. I feel like I'm great. I'm the man. I feel wonderful. It's not ego. It's just confidence. And there's a difference things between a huge ego and someone with a lot of confidence. And I hope I come across with a lot of confidence, not a lot of ego. But my other thing, helping people grow in all aspects of their life. I can't tell you in my last 18 years of doing this, especially the last 5 that I was with the other brokerage. And they, I sat down with people and said, how can I help you get from here to here? And some of that wasn't just selling houses. It was, I need help with this, or I need help with my spouse, or I need help raising these kids, or, something like that. And sometimes that's important. So helping people grow in all aspects of their life, that's huge. Doing the right things always, as you mentioned, to me, it's like, it doesn't matter if someone's looking or not. You always have to do the right thing. As Spike Lee says, always do the right thing. For me, it's always been work smarter, not harder. When I got in this industry, I was 30 years old, divorced, single dad, and it was tough. And I wasn't working very smart. I can tell you 17, 18 years later now, I work a lot smarter. But I was working pretty hard and one of the biggest principles of my life now is just give more and you'll get more. If you give more things away or give positive energy to people, I promise you it will come back. And that's huge. Give more and I promise you'll get more. And then the last thing for me is this is probably the most important is I always try to be a positive influence on people or a motivational factor in someone's lives, whatever that is. If I can motivate someone or be positive, I know people, we live in a world, as you know, John, that some tragedies happen and things happen and I can't explain them for any reason. But I always try to, if I can, be positive about things and be motivating and help people say, we can get beyond this. Let's do this together. Let's lock arms and let's 1 + 1 does equal 3 in my world. So.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And I think it's having those foundational principles and pillars to ground ourselves and help us make sure we're making the best decisions that we need to be making for, all of the happiness triad, right? Health, wealth, and relationships. And I think we have to be, I really believe you have to be performing well at the highest levels of all three to reach our full, like you said, potential peak performance that we all have for ourselves. So no, it's fascinating. And when you really get to the core of it and unpack it. And a lot of people, I think, Nick, and you tell me, I mean, they're just not willing to put in the work to do the self-discovery.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're not willing to peel back the onions of yourself, to do the right work and to work hard enough and find out what's broken with you, then you're not going to grow as a person, and you're certainly not going to attract people to you. And you've got to have your self-worth's got to be the number one thing. You can't attract, you want to be in a relationship with someone, you have to love yourself and you have to be happy with you. And now you can change yourself. You can lose weight. You can, you can alter your body. You can do things you can work out every day. If that makes you happy, then that's wonderful. But you've got to love yourself. And then you will bring people towards you, and you will connect people. You will attract people every day of your life, and be a positive influence to those people, because man, you never know when, we never know when the last day is going to be. So I'm always going to be a positive influence, always, for all my days on this planet. Yeah.
And you never know who you're going to impact. That's the thing. It really is. It's, you hear stories and even experiences, and, people come up to you, years, and they, thank you. And it's just like, for what?
Right.
And so you never know. And I think having those key values that are core to you to make decisions and live by, it's how we behave. And, I think it's the most important, and it really is the most powerful.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Nick, brother, I appreciate you so much jumping in, adding a ton of value. I know we could go on for hours, but we're going to keep it in the confines of the time here. And, for folks that need to get connected with you, or that want to get connected with you, I believe everybody should get connected with you. What's the best way to connect?
Obviously I'm on Facebook. My cell number is 216-401-9954. And any other way, text me, call me, shoot something, be on Facebook, friend request me. I promise I'll get back to you. And, but let me know any way I can help anybody. I'm happy to do it.
Love it. Nick, appreciate you. Y'all listen in, give Nick lots of love, and we will definitely catch you on the next episode. See ya.
Thanks, John.